Greetings, dear ones. I'm Cryon of Magnetic Service. Now, my partner, we've got to deliver this message through your body, so you better get your coherence factor a little better. He's feeling something. I didn't give him information. I gave him profundity. There's part of him that does not want to be the lightning rod tonight. He wants to be in the audience tonight. Doesn't want the spotlight. Where do I begin? The information that you have been given in these days is grand, and so much of it to digest. We're not going to sit and give you more. Instead, we're going to give you a little history, and we're going to tell you what's really happening here. It's not going to take that long, dear ones. At the center of your galaxy is an event. We call it an event. Not something that was or will be, but something that is and always will be. Always was. It is timeless, an event. And in 3 dimensions, your science look at it right in the middle of the galaxy. They did their best to see what it might be. And they've said it's a singularity of some kind of central source. Named it a black hole. Years ago, we told you that's not what was there. We told you the folly that you would even think such a thing. When every law of physics comes in pairs, right down to cellular DNA, you have systems in pairs. And in the middle of your galaxy, you've decided there's one thing. There isn't. There's a pair. And it's not describable to you because you do not have that science yet. You do not have the concept of what it could be. Today you were given an indication that there might be what is called a broadcast going on all the time. From Spirit, from God, from the great central sun, from the source, whatever you want to call it. And the physics of it we have described to you before in an interdimensional way. Outside of your 3D, we've called it push-pull energy. We've never described it, we've never explained it, and we can't now. But there's a pair there. And it's always broadcasting. We have told you that when you go beyond 3D and you begin to see what is actually there in a multi-dimensional form, you're going to see so much more than you see now. So much more. And you're on the cusp of that, on the edge of that. Then we'll be able to explain better, for your physicists will start to grasp what it is. Today, your physicists still look into the galaxy and they explain everything they into human consciousness, right into that invisible fabric that we've talked about all day long that can change everything. Science is going to realize that this invisible force is so much grander than anything in three dimensions that you know about, anything. The true power of all that is invisible. And so much of it comes from you. Now that is not new news, is it? So let us back up just a little bit. At the precession of the equinoxes, the center, the wobble of the earth, the beginning and the end, when enough of the Pachacutis had settled, and when the calendars of the ancients aligned themselves and proclaimed an end of an old energy so grand and great they had to start new calendars to describe what might happen. You held a ceremony in honor for it, and you called it the Lemurian Choir. And in that time and in that place, you had the instructions to use the pineal, the sounds that were made intuitively through the Master Yah-E and his remembrance, to literally sing to the central source tones that would create multidimensional energies to let the rest of the galaxy know you had arrived. And you did. At that time, I channeled to you that you had turned the key in the lock. Now, dear ones, there's a lot of difference between opening a door and simply turning the key in the lock. And you're about...
95 מלא?
לא! תן לו מדלק הכי טוב שלך! עליי! אולי אתה מגיע לו מלרשרש?
Simply turning the key in the lock. And you're about to open the door with me. All of you. It is hard to describe. In the last 3 years, we have identified 24 places on the planet which we called nulls and nodes. And together, when they're paired up, they create 12 push-pull energy time capsules left here by your seed parents. Now let's just stop for a moment, because I don't want to go any further until you understand seed parents. Just because you've never met them or you don't think you've met them, just because it sounds odd and strange, and just because if you're New Age you have to believe in ETs, and just because it tempers the truth. And the truth is this. Listen, your lineage is from the stars. It couldn't be clearer. Your lineage is from the stars. The chemistry might be from here, but I'll tell you that what is inside you is Pleiadian. Therefore, if you would look at the Pleiadians and call them funny names and fear them and say they're here to conquer you, or they're Lizzies, or they're this or that, I want you to be aware of something. You are Pleiadian. Is it any clearer than that? They are your spiritual parents in love with you, with a hands-off policy on this planet where you can build your own consciousness, enhance your own DNA. You can take it down, you can take it up. There's no predestination. It is yours today. And when you pass the marker, the ancients predicted that you would have the chance, this 5th time, to break a mold and go forward in human consciousness. I will say it again. I will say it so many times you're going to get tired of hearing it. Historians may measure this time as the time the page was turned, and everything that preceded it was barbarian age. That's how different the potential is. It's going to take a long time, years, for the awakening to take hold. Generations must pass. Old energy and old thinking must go into the dirt, and the new thinking to be born of the same dirt. Time. However, esoterically, you're about ready to open a door. In this room, in a day, another grand assemblage of pineal tones will be sung, rehearsed, channeled around, practiced. And they're not going to work unless we do something, you and I, right now, in this room. 12 pairs of push-pull energy called time capsules. The time capsules contain nothing. The nomenclature of time capsule is given for you, a metaphor. Something is there and it has to do with time. And I'll tell you why. Because the time is now. Those capsules, when they're open, they're like doors. And they don't transmit anything. They're receivers. I want you to know that when you talk about things of science, and you heard it today, the repetition of systems of fractals goes from the smallest of the small to the biggest of the big. And what you find in the simplicity of the small is echoed and repeated to the largest thing you can imagine, the very galaxy you're in, the way the push-pull energy works, transmitted from the great central source to the planets of free choice, which have gone into ascension status, which all have receivers. You were like a pressure cooker without a receiver. You had to pass that marker, dear human being, dear civilization, before your receivers could pop up and start a process in year 1. And that is why we identified the 12 pairs. Push-pull energy. I wish I could tell you what that meant. It doesn't really mean that at all. It's the best I can do. It ought to tell you there's a system that goes back and forth for a reason. When you start identifying where the nodes and the nulls are paired, you're going to find that the best path of transmission between them in order to pair up is through the soil of the earth and not through the air. Transmission through the dirt. Tesla 101. And so don't be surprised if they're on the other side of the planet. We've given you 3. If you knew how the system worked and you've got 12, you know that 3 is not enough to activate them. You've got to be a certain percentage in order for the 3 to come online and start to receive. The choirs have activated them. They're ready to go. The choir that will be in this room will activate this one, but it has no partner. Until now, when I identify it. And then there will be 4 pairs. And if you knew the formulas, and you will someday, you'll know that there has to be a certain percentage of the 12 in order for the engine to work. As soon as you bring the fourth pair online, all of them will start receiving. And what is it they're going to sense and receive? I will tell you, dear ones. Fast tracking to a higher consciousness on the planet, because that is your desire. Because that is your intent. Because that is the belief that you are owning in this room. It is no accident that there are 500 of you or so in the shadow of the mountain. There is no accident that this evening Adamus is here. Aurelia Louise Jones is here. They've waited a long time for this. That your seed parents are standing around you and saying, it's about time. You're going to activate the newest pair. And when you do, some of you will feel it. I would like to identify for you the partner of Shasta. This is a node. It's matching push-pull null. It's Mount Ararat in Turkey. My partner, you're going to have to go to Turkey now. Don't read anything into this. There was no Turkey when these things were put together. Do you realize that? There was no USA when these things were put together. Do not draw human borders and wonder why. Because there are grander reasons that have to do with the geography of the planet, the beautiful geometry inside the planet. I've just told you where it is, but it's not linked up yet. Once you link this, the percentage will be complete and the process can begin. Doesn't it make sense that the process should begin in 2014, not in 2013? Doesn't it make sense that now is the time to start, instead of a time of confusion and realignment, readjustment? The confusion is beginning to clear for so many in here. I need all of you to do this. Now, there are many here who won't know what they're doing. And if that bothers you, then don't do it. For the rest of you, this is why you came. This is why you came. I want a coherence in the room. Did you see it on the screen? Did you hear about what the heart can do? Are you aware of human consciousness? Do you know about the invisible power you have collectively? Do you have any idea? Any idea? That what you do in the next moments is going to bring this planet online. And when you look at the news tomorrow, it won't look any different than it does today. Because these things happen slowly, with generations involved, with birth and death. But once the planet starts to receive what it's supposed to receive at the right time, passing into the new places in its orbit around the galaxy, it is ready. It is ready. The fast track is here to help you. I want a coherence in the room. Adamus is here. I want you to focus right now in silence, right now, to the whole reason you came. I want you to concentrate on this beautiful node called Shasta. This is the home of your seed parents. They've been waiting for this alignment, for this matchup. Right now, I want you to concentrate. I want a coherence in the room. Can you show your love Can you go into that place in your heart and no nervousness? Can you drop into the core right now? Can you do this together? We need you to do this together of like mind. The belief in the room is on purpose. It surpasses any kind of a random group we can ever bring together. There is a coherence. It's starting. Louise, thank you for this. Adamus, we're here. And what you had hoped would happen has. The group has a coherence. It is concentrating on the mountain. Let the city come forth. As the city on the hill, as the beginning of an activation of all four pairs in a percentage where they'll all awaken. And over time, the others will come online as well to start receiving information that will help humanity, should it wish to awaken to it. New information that humanity is ready for in a way that it's never been ready before. Let those in this building, in this coherence, in this love, who recognize you as seed parents, finally, not in fear, but in congratulations, knowing that their own DNA is like yours, finally. Let the love in this room be broadcast to the city on the hill. And let these two, a node and a null, come together right now. And there are some in this room who are not going to feel it. I want to tell you, this carries a power of healing energy. There are many things that may happen right now. I invite some of you to feel it right now, if you choose. You're in the right place at the right time. This is a coherence of 500 people. This coherence can affect everyone in this room, those who are listening in what we will call at the same time and you call later, right now. There's an energy, the entourage that has come in here at the beginning is celebrating. Some of you are not going to sleep well tonight because there's a party going on in the mountain right now because you just did it. You just did it. Let the pair be complete. Let this planet go forward. It's the reason I'm here. It's the reason that all we're on the stage today at some level, there's hope. Like there never was before. Is this too esoteric? For some, yes. But in the future, there will be science that comes along that looks curiously like what I talked about today. What a coincidence. I want you to go from this place knowing that something profound has happened. And that you had a part in it. Dear old soul, thank you for being in the right place at the right time. No wonder my partner was apprehensive. He wanted to be with you. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Cryon of Magnetic Service. My partner is apprehensive. He steps aside, but he's listening. I feel him. I know him. The apprehensiveness is because of the revelations, perhaps of his past, that he has not heard before. And yet it is written in his Akash to be read. And there are those who could have read it. I do not reveal anything that is not appropriate. And the revelation of his past is only to enhance the information given this evening about the place that I sit in. This channel will not be long, but filled with things for you to think about, ponder. And one of the big questions is this: were you part of it? What I'm going to reveal. There are those in the room who will be nodding and going, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. I want to tell you about what you already know. Old souls in the room, you understand, do you not, that you tend to incarnate in groups? The groups incarnate over and over in specific areas for specific reasons. Sometimes they move on, sometimes they do not. I will tell you that the area that you are in right now tends to have karmic groups stay. And there's a reason. Some of you have been here, literally, for 2,000 years. You keep incarnating, joining the societies of what I will call the island. Learning the languages, moving around. And that's for a reason. And I'm going to explain as best I can. We have given you the history of the planet spiritually many times. We've given you the timeline up to a certain way and place, starting with the seeding of the planet with the Lemurian existence, with the Pleiadians all over. Starting what you now call a planet of free choice, one where you can control your own consciousness and make decisions that will eventually affect the entire galaxy. We've told you that your planet is one of many who have gone through this process. But still you sit here in 3D and you say, it's a nice story. I'm going to enhance the story. I would like to say this was a story of the UK. It is not. It is a story of the island. It is a story of the region. A place on the planet before borders, before the names, but including all of the areas from the south of Plymouth to the top of Wick. A vast area whose borders have changed a number of times since this all began. When the Lemurians spread upon this planet and spread out, when the other seed colonies settled, and human life began with the knowledge of light and dark, and the societies started to develop. This was a special place. And there's a reason. The area, the region, lays in a way that the grids enhance it. You're not going to understand this, and I'm going to give you some metaphysics today and some physics today, whether you're ready for it or not. There are parts of the earth that hide secrets very well. You might call it a cooperative Gaia energy or not,
whatever you call it, there are places on the planet which keep the deepest secrets available. As human beings chose their own consciousness, what they would do with it, where they would go with it, from the days of the creation and the thousands of years that followed, humanity decided to place the consciousness at a lower level than it was given to them. Things had to be hidden. And you know this. There are some of you in this room who know this. And the reason you do is it resounds in your akash, and you were there. There are places of the planet that hide secrets very well. There are secrets at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea yet to be revealed. There are secrets in Greece and Egypt. And here. And when it became obvious that human consciousness was sinking to a level where the light was in trouble, you went underground. And these are the areas that had to take the secrets of the mystery schools and hide them. And you did. And the societies that were here were the ones that would do the best job in keeping them hidden. And so many names for them, dear ones. There are no correct or incorrect names for the societies. Some of them were false societies with false names so people wouldn't go near them. All of that to hold a light. Today, the revelations of what you can do with your DNA, the reprogramming, all that, mining the Akash, the God inside, these were the secrets that could never be put forward to a low consciousness humanity. From Plymouth in the south to Wick in the north, the whole island participated. There are so many portals here. There's so much energy still here. And the mysteries were hidden. You ask yourself about the purpose of Druids. You ask yourself the purpose of the mythology in the 1100s of Merlin. Not a man at all, but a combination of concepts about magic. What was the magic? What we teach today. Metaphysics. That's where you sit. And you hit it well. Now, who is here in the room are the masters of hiding. Your Akash is deep with it, dear ones. I've waited a long time to sit in this chair, in this place, and congratulate you for keeping this pure. And you did. And you know it when you walk around here. It's special here. Don't you know this? Now, I would like to introduce you to a family member who sits next to me, the man in the chair. He's everything Brit, from the bottom of Plymouth to the top of Wick. He is a product, and his Akash is a product of all of the countries here and their colonies. And their colonies. His last Pacific life he knows all about. We've even published it as an Australian. We haven't published, or he doesn't even know the lifetimes as a colonist when he was black. Always a Brit, or part of the colonies. And today he sits in the chair, a product of the colonies. Always a Brit. It is his job to keep secrets, and he's good at it. We've revealed his lifetime in Lemuria as the secret keeper and the runner. of the messages to royalty, keeping their secrets, running with the verbal messages they needed to pass one to another. He knew the secrets of the mystery schools. He's been everything you can imagine. He's participated in the Knights of the Templar. He's been a third-degree Mason. You name it, he's been it. He has kept the secrets of the land. He knows this land very well. It's in his Akash. He's more familiar than he even knows with the tucks and the valleys of the countryside, the feeling of the dirt, the cold winters. He knows them well. He has yet to discover it. You remember, do you not, the irony here? A world traveler he is, and we have kept him away from the UK. We've kept him away from Ireland, not quite on the island, but close. We've kept him away from Scotland. We've kept him away from the places that he would resound to and remember, where he kept the secrets well. But dear ones, I want you to know, this is not about him. It's about you, for he was with you keeping them. Now, why do I tell you this? Before I reveal the message's culmination and what I want this land to know and the secret keepers to understand, before I do that, I want to give you some multidimensional physics in a way you have never heard before, and that will tie in to what some have said is coincidence and others have said is fakery. I want to talk about crop circles. You think I wouldn't? Oh. First, let us look at the coincidences, and there are none. It's time to connect the dots. First of all, tell me this. When did they begin? In numbers, what was the time frame? And what a coincidence that it started just before the harmonic convergence, just before the 18 years of this, which is the half cycle of the precession of the equinoxes, the 36-year window. And they began right before the shift, in numbers. Second question, where predominantly on this planet are they? And the answer is here. What a coincidence. In the lands that were built to keep the secrets of the mystery schools. What are they? First of all, let me tell you what they are not. They are not created in the middle of the night in the darkness by two guys with sticks and ropes and bottles of beer. You knew that. If it were possible to technologically look upon the paddocks and the fields in the night with infrared or whatever you call it, if you could record, you'd see something. And we've told you this before, and we wish you to verify it. They're created within moments. Stamps in the grass all at once with no one around. If you could capture this on video, you would see the earth sink. All within moments, all together. Perhaps it's the first time you've heard that. Watch for the validation. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the potentials of what they are. And this is difficult. Are they messages? Of course, of course. Do they contain language? In a way, yes, they do. Sacred? Not the ground they are on, but the messages they contain, yes. Messages about all things in the future. Wisdom, sacred geometry, it is all there, even DNA. How do I explain this? I want you to go slow, my partner, for this is new. I'm going to give you some examples. 13 months before you got a new pope, I told you you were going to get a new pope. Now I'm going to ask you, was that predestination? No. Was it fortune telling? No. Because we could see the potentials that were brewing in the private areas you could not see regarding the papacy, regarding the consciousness of the one who would step down, regarding the potentials of the one who would come forward from South America. What a coincidence that is. And we told you about it. So you might say that there was a 90% potential of that happening. From the other side of the veil, it was obvious. It carried energy of potential. We gave it to you, and it took place. We saw it before it happened. We were able to because of the physics of multidimensional potential energy. When there is a potential, no matter what kind of energy, it has physics in multidimensionality. Real physics. It carries an energy. The potential does of something happening. It becomes reality on your clock, a three-dimensional clock that does not exist in a multidimensional state. In a multidimensional state, potentials that are more than 90% have already happened. Difficult to explain, isn't it? Not long ago, we told you there would be another small war in the Middle East. You got to see it last month. Was that fortune telling? Is there predestination? And the answer is no. Just like the Pope, we saw the things taking place under the bonnet where no one else knew, the consciousness of what was being developed, the players, all of that. And we were able to tell you 90% that it would take place. And it did. In pure multidimensional physics that you do not understand yet, there are quantum formulas for the energy of potential. And when they reach a certain point, they manifest themselves in a way where you can say, this is happening. Let's say, for instance, you were in a building where they were rehearsing a choir. A choir of thousands. They were about ready to sing a beautiful song. You heard the rehearsal. You knew it was coming. And they were going to flip a switch where the whole town could hear the song. And they were going to do it at a certain time. And you saw all of this. You might have sat in on the rehearsals. Maybe you were privileged. And you sat in the corner and you watched it all envelop. The clock started to come close to that place where they would sing the practiced song in all of its glory and its beauty. And you escaped the building to go outside and tell the people that at a certain time there was going to be a beautiful song. Now stop for a moment. Is this predestination? Would they believe you? Maybe, maybe not. And after it took place, and it would they think you were a fortune teller? Maybe, maybe not. But what do you think? For you saw the 90% potential. The song had been rehearsed. It was about ready to be sung. The clock was ticking to the point of its release. And you knew it was coming. This has formulation in quantum physics. It's the energy of a potential. A train that cannot be stopped because the potentials are there. All of this to tell you about crop circles. How do I explain this? There's a song about to be sung on this planet of light. It may take a generation, dear one, but it's on its way. It's 90%. I wouldn't be here if it were not. Yes, you have free choice. But the odds that you will change it are amazingly against this, for the snowball is rolling. And we see it in all of the corners on the planet. We see the alliances for peace. We see consciousness starting to change. The metaphor of the beautiful song about to be sung is being rehearsed on the planet. Amongst all of the terror, all of the darkness, all of that which squirms in the dark because you have too much light, dear ones. It knows it's going to lose. Don't tell it. The best way to stop it is to take away its funding. We have said this before. Find out where it's coming from and stop it. That's the best way. Watch for this, even in your news, soon. They'll figure it out. Why fund the dark when there is so much light? There is so much light. Now, follow my reasoning. Based upon everything I have said to you, follow my reasoning. If there is a potential for a high human consciousness for peace on earth, if it lays out there, if it's 90%, it is formulated. It is there in physics. It is stamping the messages in the grass to you right now, saying, this is the future. Messages from beyond, messages from you, the potential that has already been manifest in a certain way, metaphysically. I'll tell you what the messages say. And that is why I sit in the chair today. It is time to release all of the secrets of the mystery school. And it's hard. Because the generations that you have spent hiding things is in your Akash. You've segmented it. You've societized it. You've called it names. You've stuffed it away. And now I'm saying it is time to release it. This is not your grandfather's metaphysics. This is the new age. This is the time the ancients have waited for. You kept the secrets for a reason. Now, secret keepers, I want you to walk out of this place with a new concept of who you are and what you're for. It's time to share what you know. And the best way to do it is to live mastery. How you treat people, the way that you can heal your body, all of the shamanic information that you have kept hidden and sequestered for all of these years, release it. Let those around see the majesty in you. The secrets are out. Say them out loud if anybody asks. You can change your DNA. You can change your reality. You can change your life. You can change your lifespan. That's Merlin. That's magic. All right here. That's the message. Drop the walls. We said this last night, sitting in another country, across the channel. Drop the walls.
Join with others that you never would have joined with before. Watch for synchronicity of love. Is it possible that there are those around you who wear odd garb and perhaps have other religious beliefs or spirituality that are filled with God and have the secrets you do? Watch for it. But they're ready to release it too. This message that I'm giving you is not sequestered to cry on. It is being shouted in the grass. It is being given to mediums everywhere. This is the time you waited for. Brian, what is it we're supposed to do in 3D? I just told you. Walk out of this room and live like a master. Watch what you say. Watch how quick you are or slow you are to anger. Look for God in others. Start solving problems in your life that others will look at you and say, I don't know what you're into, but I want a piece of it. And you can say, it's magic. And you'd be right. It is magic. Imagine a human being who can extend their years with their mind, with the intuition they have through the higher self portal, through bringing in energy from the past, through applying light to their life, a light that they have kept hidden for centuries. Let it out. Let it out. Combine with those you would never combine with. There are those who would say, well, others are doing it wrong and their metaphysics is not like yours. It's time to drop the barriers and see God in them. Don't look at their belief. Look at their heart. Awareness precedes change. Someone in the audience knows exactly where I got that. That was for you, dear. What are you going to do next? This is the awareness cycle. Next comes change. Leave the place, leave this place different than you came in. We said that already. This is the purpose of the meeting. In the next weeks and months, some of the things that I have said today will become alive for you. You will see them manifesting in ways you didn't expect, and you'll remember the moment. This message is given in love. But this area, for you, right now, it is one that is congratulatory for holding the light so well for so long. Now let it go. Shine. My partner is with you in all of it. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Cryan of Magnetic Service. You are all known to me. And as I say the words, you interpret the word me. To have a figure with a face, to be some kind of an angelic energy perhaps, and you'd be right. Except that no one has ever defined angelic energy. And if they did, and if we did, it is the soup of God. If you could see God, you would be seeing every piece of matter that exists. If you could see God, you would see the energy of love. permeating every single space in the universe. If you could see God, it wouldn't be singular, dear ones. You can't count the pieces of soup, dear ones. Even at the basic level of soup, even at the atomic level, you'll find it's filled with space. And that's love. So how can I come to you in the best way possible and speak? And the answer is, I become cryon. I become a figure of an angel. I become paintable to the artists, composable to the musicians. I become as singular as I can, so you will relate. But I am from that which is the great central sun. And that is the expression. For the sun is the metaphor of life for you. For all things emanate from there. The metaphor of God from the center, you'll find everywhere. It's the center of creation, of thought, of love, and it is great. And therefore I am the essence of what you would call creation. And so are you. And the difference between us, dear ones, is that right now I am looking at family who is in corporeal bodies. And most of you is not here. It's with me on the other side of the veil. We've explained that before. Your core soul energy splits when you are born and comes back together when you ascend. And therefore, human being, you are in several places at the same time. But while you are here, there are always questions and puzzlements. And the 3D portions of your mind want to work it all out. Who is talking? How does it work? What does it mean? So right now, I'm going to ask you, old soul, to set aside the three-dimensional parts of you as best you can and acknowledge what is here and what is happening. 23 years ago, I came into my partner's life to talk about right now. This is the last organized, scheduled, and structured channel of the year. Tomorrow there will be channeling, but it's different. This is the last one that will be recorded and transcribed of the year in this fashion. And so I want to give the message called the last 18 years. But I have to start with you. I'm talking about the ones in here with me now. The energy that you create during this message will help those listening and reading later. What do you think of that statement? And if you say, well, Cryon, how does that work? In a timeless energy called quantum, it means that anyone listening to this message, no matter when on earth, is listening to it with you in the room. And if, human being, you are quantum in any fashion or form, it means you are part of the energy. Anyone reading these words in a time after this is transcribed will be reading and feeling the energy of those in the room. That's quantum. How do you understand this? How do I explain this? And the answer is, I cannot. But some of you in the room are always so ready to say, I don't care. And those are the ones that set the standard. where you understand and realize that the energy is the energy. And that family, you are part of this. The last 18 years. 1987 is really the preparation to the precession of the equinoxes. This is partially a review and a wrap-up, not of the year, but of everything. 1987, there was an event that was described as the harmonic convergence. It set the stage for illumination of the planet. Illumination of the energy that is quantum and truthful about who you are. If you take it next to another 11, you have the symbol of the harmonic convergence. It is the 1111. And it was before what you would call the 36-year window of the precession of the equinoxes that would cause what has also been known as the alignment. Now, this alignment is the end of the long count of the Mayan calendar. And it's astronomy. And the astronomers and the ancients knew it as the result of the wobble of the earth, creating the fact that the sky was always a little different every single night. And even the ancients were able to do the math and realize that it was a 26,000-year alignment. And the alignment starts and stops with the same attribute. When you can look at the center of the galaxy and the sun lines up with it perfectly, this is the start and end point of the wobble. It became known as the precession of the equinoxes. If you look at the sky, and as an astronomer you want to see where it starts and ends the last 36 years, it presents itself through the edge of the galaxy called the dark rift, which is what you call the Milky Way when you look up in the sky. As it precesses through that edge, it takes 36 years. 18 years ago, it began. And now you've reached this part, which is the middle. The solstice is the day where you celebrate it. And then there's 18 years more. Well, it precesses out of that stripe in the sky. And that 36-year window is special. The Mayans saw that. And everything that you have learned about the Mayan calendar falls short of this. They saw the 36 years. And it's so profound that many have seen what they said and said it is the end of time. And it isn't. Why would they say that? Why would it show in such an esoteric calendar that they put together, which even showed the cycles of influence on fractal time? But it looks like the end. Why would it look so barren to those who would look at it in 3D? And the answer is this. So when you get out your new calendar and you paste it on the wall and it says 2013, you're looking at it in 3D, if you could see the colors around it. It's the beginning of time. I'm going to default to something very 3D right now. The favorite tune of my partner. And he knows what it is. It's called It's Time to Say Goodbye. A beautiful ballad sung by a man and a woman about the love they have for one another. The lyrics, it's time to say goodbye. And the first time you hear it, you're struck with what? Why would they be saying goodbye? Why would these two who love each other so much ever say goodbye? And it's such a sad song. Until you look at the intent of the composer, until you find out what was meant by the tune. And then you find it. For the composer will tell you, it's time to say goodbye, not to one another, but to being alone. And your heart resounds with love. For it's a song about unification, of being together for the rest of your life with one you adore. That's very different, isn't it? And so in 3D, you read the energy of the Mayan calendar, and you say it's the end of all things, and you read doom, and you close the door, and you expect bad things. And part of humanity right now is preparing for the end. But you didn't get it. Here's how it goes. Should you make it to this place, and there was a time when that was questionable, should you make it to this place, and you have, it's time to say goodbye to everything you think is the way things work. There's a unification coming of humanity, of hearts. And it may take generations, dear ones, but you got 18 years to plant the seeds, and that was my message last time. (1987) was before the 18 years. 1994 is when it began. Between 1987 and 1994, I came to see my partner in 89. It took him those years to settle. He calls it the honeymoon period of cryon. I call it grueling. He's a stubborn man. When I finally convinced him that it was all right to love me, the real information began. You can see the difference between the first book, written in 93, and the second one written in 94. The first one was cryptic. It told the story. But in 94, he was in love with God. And then things began to happen. But in that period, something else had started. You started to see things around you change. And those who were here know of what I speak. Geopolitical systems of the planet turned around. You started to see the fall of the Soviet Union, who was the nemesis of the United States, and the two of them would have brought you to a conclusion of nuclear war by the millennium. They almost did it in the 60s. And it all went away. The prophecies of Revelation have you at war. The prophecies of Nostradamus had you at war. And it didn't happen. What happens, dear ones, when the prophecies of old fall on the floor in front of you? Because it isn't real anymore. What happens? And I'll tell you, you got to rewrite it. And that's what you're doing now. I came in to see my partner in 89, and I told him that consciousness on the planet would begin to shift. By 1994, the precession of the equinoxes had started. The indigenous of the planet felt it coming. For over 1,000 years, they had predicted it as a decision point of humanity. And the Mayan calendar end count was the place where it may occur. And it is. And these are the things we speak of. The prophecy of the eagle and the condor is simply the prophecy of a balancing planet. Balancing in a way that will create a softer consciousness that thinks better. It thinks in survival, with honor and with love. It thinks differently, for it starts to realize that unification instead of separation is the answer. It starts to try the hardest things that humanity has ever tried, putting unequal economies together, changing the very essence of the way countries work, rewriting banking systems, thinking out of the boxes that were always there before, changing the way government works, allying trade so that you don't necessarily have it all one-sided and the only side that counts is earth. So when one benefits, the all do. It starts conceptual thinking, where it's not only the individual, it's the individual and everything around the individual. The concept of peace being something that is not only desirable, but the only thing that's civilized. That's the change. And you started to see many things start to move. You came to the millennium shift and nothing happened. Did you notice? And there were those then heading for the hills, building the shelters, arming themselves against their neighbors. Some were expecting the earth to turn upside down, for the poles to shift. You know that won't happen, don't you? Ever. For everything on the planet would be dead if it did. Although magnetics has shifted many times, but the earth never turned over. There are so many who wish to believe the horror, the drama. It's time to say goodbye, they say. And they didn't get it. And the ones in the room and the ones listening to my voice are starting to understand. There is a process beginning, a turnaround that is going to be slow. And some of it is ugly. It's already ugly. For things don't happen in a day. These kinds of energies, we say you mush into them. That is to say, it takes years to set the stage. Sometimes you go backwards a little bit and then forward. It takes generations of thought and evolution of human consciousness to create the final result. And you're only at the beginning of it. And you're going to see a lot of old energy and new energy clashing. And you won't even recognize what it is. Takes us to current events, dear ones. What are you seeing right now as we sit? You're seeing war. You're seeing issues in the Middle East, yet again. And there are those who would say, well, this is the beginning of the end. Right on schedule. Instead of understanding what you truly are looking at. What's going on in Egypt right now? You thought that was settled, didn't you? And it isn't. Why are the people reacting the way they are to the new leader? And the answer is because the new leader has shown himself to be part of the old energy they wanted removed. And they're letting him know. Why did they do this in the first part? What is the reason for such a stable country that you could visit, where tourism is everything, to go into a state of revolt against itself the year before 2012. What is the reason? And I will tell you, dear ones, this is what we're talking about, is that the old energy, as good as you think it was, as long as it lasted, was not going to work anymore. You see it here. You see it in the banking. You see it in the system. You see it in your government. There is objection to the old energy. And if you think it's going to simply repeat itself, you're going to stand up and object. And the Egyptians objected. They objected. And now they're objecting again. Because they want control. They want what you have. And I've said this before, they want better schools and better hospitals. They want futures for their kids that's different than it used to be. And it's time. And isn't it interesting that it coordinates with it's time to say goodbye? Syria is a nightmare. And you don't want to be there. It's everything that you don't want on the earth right now. Manifested, where you can look at it. How do you like it? And you can see it every night on your news. How do you like it? And you don't. And the mothers over there who are watching their children die don't either. I mean, your family's torn apart, hiding, hoping not to get bombed. Never thinking it would happen there. They need your energy and their love. They need you in this holiday season to give them a gift of your attention. And what is it about? A country seemingly to have an iron control over its people and always had, suddenly erupts. Knowing very well who has and holds the cards, knowing very well who has the big weaponry, and they do it anyway. Time to say goodbye to the old energy. And that's what they're doing. You saw it in Libya? It was a surprise. Isn't it interesting? All erupting together. All happening the year before. The 2012 shift. Dear ones, you are watching what we told you would happen. We told you there'd be small wars about now. And there are. You got 18 years to turn this around, and we say you will, for the potentials are strong. That all of those countries that you're looking at right now with those issues will solve them. And it's not going to last like it is now. The next one to watch is Iran, and we're telling you yet again, everything seems quiet, doesn't it? Everything's all fine, isn't it? Well, it isn't. And you're going to see why. When the people decide they don't want to be the pariah of earth. When the young people say enough is enough. And it may not be this year or next or even the next. And that depends on the old souls on the planet and what they do next. Dear ones, we need to have you start minding your Akash, and that is to say, to live longer. To pull on those energies of your past life that will make the healings in your body both psychological and physical, that will give you a longer lifespan right now. So that you wake up every morning peaceful. Even if you don't know how you're going to pay your bills tomorrow. That the thing you have today is what those in the desert had as Israelis and Israelites. Knowledge that every day they were going to be taken care of, every day. Just enough for that day. Oh, we've told you that so many times. Are you starting to understand? What you have right now, dear ones, is enough. Every single day to know that you're going to live peacefully, healthy, aging less, and that whatever the problems of 3D are there, you're going to be able to walk through them in a way you haven't so far. You see, it's time to say goodbye. It's time to say goodbye to the old energy. It's time to say goodbye to loneliness because you don't have the hand of God. It's time to start the love affair with your higher self. And when you do that, you'll never ask about the process because you will be the process. We waited a long time for this channel. 23 years. To sit in a place where we can say you did it. Don't watch the news in the same way you have. Don't see the depression of others as the way things are. Or the sorrow that is going to be shown to you as the old energy fights and fights and fights to stay alive as the way it is. It's not the way it is. This battle that is before you may actually get worse before it gets better. Because you're about ready to change the whole paradigm. And it's not going to happen in a year or 2 or even 4 or 8. It may very well be generationally. Oh, there are those in the room and say, oh, I'm going to miss it. I'm too old. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. I'm sorry for you that you won't be a certain age to see it, but you'll be here if that's okay with you. You're not going to miss anything, old soul. You're the ones who make it work. The cycle of life is the cycle of life. And you're coming right back. You know that, don't you? Even if you say right now, oh, it's a little difficult, I don't think I'll do that. I've had enough. This is the last time. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You said that last time. No, it isn't. Only the next time you'll be born into a new energy. You're going to have an intuition flash. You're going to remember everything. I promise. You're not going to have to go through the things you did this time. You're not going to have to relearn any of it. It's going to be your second nature. It's going to be intuitive. I've told you that too. And as soon as you're able to talk, you're going to tell your parents who you are. I'm back, you'll say. It's going to be that clear. And they'll know it too. And you're going to have an entire lifetime of understanding what some of you have taken a half a lifetime to find out. And that's the promise we have. The consciousness will be that different. Even a few decades from now, it's going to be different. I'll give you my favorite phrase before I close. There'll come a time when you will look back at an old energy before 2012 and you're going to see the marker that was passed and understand that something profound happened. And you will look at everything from 2012 back as being a marker of time. And it's time to say goodbye to barbaric ways. And you'll wonder, how could we have done that? You'll redefine human nature. and you'll realize at some time in the future what's happening today. I've waited a long time to give that message. Don't look at the news the same way. What's going on right now is a planet flailing against change. And populations all over the planet are standing up and saying, it's time to say goodbye to what used to be and start the love affair to what will. Some of you won't believe me until you see it for yourself. It was in the 80s, at Christmas time. And my partner got chills when he stood in front of his television set. And two leaders of profoundly powerful countries were coming together. And they'd made a decision to stop the foolishness. The United States and Russia were going into a new age called perestroika. The first disarmament was being talked about. The end of the Cold War was beginning. Those two men were singing a song, "It's Time to Say Goodbye." My partner stood in disbelief, for that wasn't a prophecy. And he knew it was the beginning of something new. You're going to see these kinds of things, dear ones. You're going to see it soon. And some of you won't even believe it. Former enemies deciding to call it quits and singing the song, "It's Time to Say Goodbye." If you've never heard the song, you should hear it, my partner says. And if you've heard it, now you know what it really means. It's time to say goodbye to the old ways of loneliness, despair, sorrow, and war. This is the marker, and you've made it. Now the next 18 years, survive it, understand it, be peaceful with change, and send energy when it's needed. I'm Cryon. I would not tell you these things if they were not so. And so it is.
Awakening does not
Greetings, dear ones. I am Cryon of Magnetic Service. I know where I am. There are some things that are sacred, some more than not. This is one of those times when it's more than not. Through a series of song lines, it has led you to this place. And you're not going to sing one note until there is an understanding, a true revelation of where you sit. The ancestors may have given their permission for you to do this, but I say to you that I want you to give permission through your respect of what you're doing. I tell a story in order to give you a perspective you may not have. No matter how long you have been in this land, the days, perhaps, of preparation that you have given yourself, still, you need to hear the story. It was a long time ago. I want you to suspend all time and come with me and meet a woman. Her name is Amishaw. Now, my partners does not say that correctly, for he cannot. But the intent is there. And she is Ananu. My partner does not say that correctly. But the intent is there. And she sits making a meal for her family, and sitting next to her is her sister. She uses the traditional flat rock preparing the meal. There's always the plants, sometimes there's the meat. And this is her life. I'm not going to tell you a great deal about her, for that's going to come in another channel. What I want you to know is the time frame. She is proud, if you can use a word like that her spirit is everywhere and belongs everywhere. She is proud that her traditions and her information says that she is over 14,000 years old in her mob, in her tribe. 14,000. And she knows this not because of some calendar on the wall or even the counting of the 6 seasons. She knows it because of the stars. This is how time is measured. The pattern of the stars are consistent, and they tell the story. If you were to look around her as the breeze increases and the sun starts to set, it wouldn't look like it looks today. The plants are different. The animals are different. There's not as many insects. 14,000 years old she is, not personally, but her lineage. Something is about to happen in the stars, and she knows it, called the precession of the equinoxes. To you, dear ones, it's the next to the last one. She knows of the 26,000 years to come. The wobble of the earth is known to the elders. All that the sky reveals each night is known to the elders. And this is her life. Come with me for a moment, for I wish to introduce you to someone called Amishaw. 10,000 years later. 10,000 years later. It is the same rock that she prepares the meal. She knows that her tribe, her mob, is 24,000 years old. Now it's time for you to examine, perhaps, your history in comparison to where she sits. And so I ask you, if you could look around the planet, what is happening that you might recognize? And the answer is nothing. For the history that you are taught in the Western world has not begun. And as I will teach you later, indeed, there are 11 other places on the planet where something similar is happening, but not like with Amishah. For she is pure and has been for 24,000 years, where nothing has changed, where women's business is the same, and the watchers of the rock are the same, where the spirit is the same, and the stars move in the same way. Let me introduce you to a woman named Amishah, 10,000 years later. The ancestry and the song lines speak of the age of her mob as being 34,000 years old. And she's using the same rock. The family has used it for all of those years. Indeed, things look a little different. Perhaps the plants are a little larger. But the breeze is the same, and it sings among the rocks of their purity, and the song lines are as pure. Now I want you to look at your history. Right now, as she claims a 34,000-year-old lineage, there is stirring in the Indus Valley and in the Mesopotamian area where you think the cradle of life came from, Westerner. Just stirring. The ancient Egyptians are not ancient yet. Abraham is not born yet.
Dear ones, the entire subject of nodes and nulls started here. And when I say here, I mean with this, the choir. Under the direction of Ya'i, the nodes and the nulls of the planet were outlined, for it was his job, in order to generate the tones, to open them. Some of you were there. That place in Lemuria, where the signal was sent. It would tell the cosmos that you had arrived at this precession of the equinoxes, fulfilling the prophecy of the ancients. What you did not know at that moment is that there were song lines all around the earth. Some of them were doing the same, not quite like you did. But some were silent regarding the creation of certain energies on the planet, the benevolence that goes into them, the nodes and the nulls, nodes and the nulls, nodes and the nulls, would be able to open at the appropriate time. And the pairs would then require and provide a push-pull energy. They would open with real-time information from the Seven Sisters energy, which you call the Pleiadians. This energy would be spread upon the planet in order to enhance spiritual evolution. This is the plan.
You have opened a number of them. One pair was opened profoundly in Bolivia. And now you sit with a full 1/3 in operation, 33%. This has activated all of them, and the earth starts to feel what you've done. All through your song lines. All through what Ya'i has been able to remember shockingly accurately for all these years. But there's more. Nodes and nodes are different. And they play a multiple role on the planet. They didn't just sit here waiting to be opened for the initial purpose of the nodes of the planet. All by themselves, without nulls, the 12 nodes of this planet were the places where creation began. This is one of them. I gave you the story of Amishah. There are similar stories in 11 other places on this planet. They are listed in your books. And they all have the same kind of an attribute as opposed to a null. And the attributes of the nodes are that humans are able to get to them, to be at them easily. And if you could do some kind of research, you would find that almost every one of them was mystical to this day. That those who would live around them say that there's energy here and it's ancient beyond belief, years beyond counting. The difference with Amishah is that hers was the only node where the purity was remained and not diluted. It's special here. But dear ones, what I am saying to you is that the creation story of the seven sisters used common sense with the great central source which you call God marrying to this planet all those years ago in 12 places, not one. Therefore, there was common sense applied. Does it make sense to you that God would have gone to one particular place and told the seven sisters, this is where you to seed on the planet, only one place? Do you see how this would arise to problems? For then you would say, what were they like, this one place? Were they of color? Were they not of color? A rise in the human brain would be then biases of which God would like more. Do you see? There would be biases aplenty. No, common sense has it started in 12 areas that are so different and so remote, they would be all the colors. Indeed. All of the temperatures. Indeed. To provide cultures that were outstandingly different, as they should be, in free choice of humanity, so that someday your differences you could put together. Common sense in spirituality is what we have talked about for some time. Spirit has benevolence. Let me define the lack of common sense. The lack of common sense would be bringing flies to Uluru. For those of you seated here, that's funny. The benevolence of God knows you. The benevolence of God and the way things have transpired over the years, purposely, beautifully balanced. The nodes have always been here and always been known. They are the creation centers of humanity. These represent the landings of the Pleiadian
who we'll talk about in a moment. The nulls, these come online as we identify the pairs. And now we have another system, a system of balance from the creative source. From the creation centers comes the information of the original Pleiadian homes. Push-pull. My partner does not understand that. And finally, I will say this only. We call the nodes and the nulls a push-pull system. As they come online, they become balanced. All that you know in physics, in chemistry, in science, has a system that is balanced. The very laws of physics require there be balance, that is to say, there be pairs. The very DNA molecule that you celebrate with your tones, they all come in pairs. There is a base 12 mathematics which is involved in all things, even consciousness. There is a push and a pull. This is the way of it in the galaxy, in your own life. It is also the way of it with nodes and nulls. With every note that is sung, there is an acknowledgement of the Pleiadian reality. A thing that we have spoken of so often, and yet not often enough. I want to expose a little more about something so beautiful that I warn my partner that it's emotional. I want you to connect the dots, dear ones. I know who's going to listen to these words apart from this room. I know there is unbelief that such a thing could be, based upon the traditions of the now that are so different than the ancients. The idea that you might have been seeded, that is to say, biologically shifted and changed by another race from somewhere else in your galaxy, is often thought to be the words of a fool. It isn't. It's a beautiful creation story shared by so many cultures that it cannot be a coincidence. Again, I invite in all benevolence and seriousness and beauty that the anthropologists would begin yet again to ask around to the cultures of this planet, especially around those places we call the nodes. What is your creation story? And there will be similarities in all of them. Not the identical story, but so much similarity that it points to M45. The little cluster in the sky, not the brightest one, not the most obvious one, but the one that's home. They celebrate it here in their song lines. And they know who the ones with names you cannot pronounce are. And it is the same in Lemuria. It is the same in Shasta. It is the same over and over. How could these cultures have the same kinds of stories, which even names the shapes in the sky after the mythological characters involved in the creation story itself? And they never met each other. They never knew what the others believed. And the only answer that you can come up with that is common sense is that there has to be a commonality with the Pleiadians. It is the creation story of the planet, and it's beautiful. It continues to be beautiful. And I want to make it personal. There are those who will go into prayer and meditation all over the planet, and they will see and they will feel God inside. You will connect to your higher self, and you will know of the creative source. A monotheistic earth knows about God. I want to make this personal, because the ones who planted the seeds in you know about the same God. Together, not apart, the Pleiadians are part of this system of God. And you do not know what you do not know, so when I tell you they are an ascended race, it doesn't mean anything to you. It doesn't mean, for instance, that they have high technology. What if I told you that their highest technology was from the Creator itself? The master physicist reveals how things work eventually to a race that plugs in fully to the benevolent love of the Creator and is able to travel the galaxy with that knowledge and with the benevolence and with the wisdom of God, the same God that you pray to. It means that they are brothers and they are sisters. When you think of your parents, your biological parents, and perhaps they're gone, and yet have they gone? They live in you. There is so much within your DNA that still remains hidden, and so much that is spiritual to the core, that includes your ancestors. The life force that you celebrate within your own DNA that you call you also contains them. When you pass someday, you will pass this same life force into your children, and they will think of you and know that you still exist in some way in their memories, in their minds, just as your mother and your father do. And it doesn't matter what happened during this time, or how you were raised, or whether there was benevolence in the family or not, you still carry them, their intent and their benevolence of God in you. You can still access them. You can still